Sunday morning, 10 Eastern and Pacific.
Imagine a region of the world where stocks have had their best January in nearly 15 years. Bank shares are up 20%. The rates at which governments borrow money has fallen sharply. Investor sentiment is at its best in months. You think I'm talking about Asia, maybe the BRIC nations. Nope. The region is actually sclerotic, struggling Europe. What in the world, right? The story is actually quite simple and was pointed out to me by Sebastian Malaby of the Council on Foreign Relations. After months of endless hand-wringing, innumerable talks, and considerable pain, it seems that the Eurozone has actually been saved, quietly but effectively. The savior is this man, Mario Draghi, the new head of the European Central Bank, an institution that had been seen as powerless and obscure until now. For much of the last couple of years, it had taken a backseat amid the crisis around it. You see, its original mandate was almost solely to keep inflation low and stable. But now, under Draghi, it has become Europe's deus ex machina. Last December, the ECB did the equivalent of printing nearly 500 billion euros worth of cash. Essentially, the central bank lent money to more than 500 European banks at just 1% interest. What was the effect? Look at this chart. It shows what we call bond yields, the rate of interest governments pay to raise money from bonds. Both Italy and Spain's rates have fallen sharply in the last 3 months. So they pay less to borrow money. That means they can get their financial houses in order without as much pain. At a more micro level, Barclays estimates that the cheap source of cash from within the ECB will boost the earnings of Eurozone banks by 4% this year. That is going to trickle into the rest of the economy, but most importantly, it means that a run on Europe's banks, the great fear, is now highly unlikely. Remember that moment in It's a Wonderful Life when everyone runs to the bank to get their money out and Bailey Savings and Loan just doesn't have enough cash, as didn't most banks during the Great Depression?
Just remember that this thing isn't as black as it appeared.
Well, thanks to the ECB, Europe's banks now have access to plenty of cash. The ECB is now set to be preparing another auction worth $1 trillion this month. You can expect that to further declog the financial system. The magic of its work is in the perception of what it does. It doesn't want to directly bail out any one country. That sets a dangerous precedent. And yet, by demonstrating its ability to inject liquidity into the system, it has convinced investors that it is the ultimate lender of last resort. Now, this does not fix Europe's longer-term or medium-term problems. Greece might well still have to default. But there is unlikely to be a Lehman-like crisis in Europe now. The irony here is that the ECB's activism is not some new theory of what a central bank can do. Here in America, the Federal Reserve did exactly that 4 years ago. The story goes that at the height of the financial crisis in 2008, Congressman Barney Frank asked the Fed chairman, Ben Bernanke, if he had $80 billion to help bail out AIG. Bernanke replied, well, we have $800 billion. For all the criticism heaped on our central bank here in America by the Tea Party and others, it is instructive to look back and see how the Fed's prompt and massive action prevented our crisis from turning into a Great Depression. And it's happening once again in Europe in an even trickier situation. The moral of the story? Don't bet against a central bank.